This is Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 20th. On the eve of the State of the Union address, President Obama's approval ratings are the highest they've been since the 2011 raid that killed terror mastermind Osama bin Laden. In a poll of 843 adults, the president received a 50% approval rating and a 47% approval rating among registered voters. But the president's negatives remain high as well. 48% disapprove of the president's job performance. 1 year ago, Obama's disapproval sat at 53%. The 9-point bump in his approval rating may be attributed to his tours touting the economy. After seeing one of the worst Ebola outbreaks in history, the United States sent 3,000 soldiers to West Africa and planned to build 17 Ebola centers in response to the ongoing outbreak that the CDC predicted could affect 1.4 million people in Sierra Leone and Liberia by the end of 2014. Now in January, the number of Ebola cases has declined significantly, and researchers say Ebola could be eliminated by June. And it appears the U.S. response, in the form of a $750 million emergency plan, was too late. Many treatment centers sit empty, having treated no patients at all. In response to the decrease in Ebola cases, 2 facilities were scrapped and several closed temporarily. Staff will work in local hospitals affected by the outbreak, and the U.S. is denying there was any misallocation of resources. The Iranian government has shut down a newspaper after printing what it calls obscene speech by actor George Clooney. When Clooney accepted the Cecil B. DeMille Award at last week's Golden Globe ceremony, he gave support to the victims of the Charlie Hebdo shooting and for proponents of free speech around the world. The reform-minded newspaper had been in operation only 3 weeks before the court in charge of cultural affairs banned it for publishing a headline and picture it deemed insulting. The director of the newspaper, Ahmad Satari, told a local news agency. Documentary filmmaker Michael Moore took to Twitter to slam snipers and Chris Kyle in the wake of the record-shattering release of American Sniper, a film based on Kyle's autobiography. Moore wrote, quote, "My uncle killed by sniper in World War II. We were taught snipers were cowards. We'll shoot you in the back. Snipers aren't heroes and invaders are worse." His comments were roundly criticized on social media. Sergeant Nick Irving, who served as a sniper with the Army's 3rd Ranger Battalion, said of Moore, "Well, I don't think he deserves the breath that I'm about to give, but I'll just say Michael Moore, he wasn't there in Afghanistan, and the last time I checked, he's never shot anybody with a scoped rifle." Irving went on to say he did not care if Moore thanked him or not, adding, "A lot of good guys and a lot of my friends died, for his right of freedom of speech, so I'm not really worried about what he has to say." This has been Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 20th.
Hi, Watson Prunier here with you on Battle for Freedom on Vigilant Liberty Radio, and I am excited that you're still tuned in. If you want to call the show, the number is 412-567-6879. That is 412-567-6879. It's interesting as we talk about the daily, not the Daily Onion, the State of the Onion about to come on. One of the things that's really interesting is that we're hoping that the president will just be honest about what's going on and just be truthful. I think he could probably garner a lot more respect from people if he actually chose to be honest, because things are not good. Things are not good. I was talking to Jess and I were talking in the background about just how, you have people who are going to school, they're getting their degrees, people with master's degrees being forced to work at restaurants. Now, there's nothing wrong with restaurant business. Actually, I worked in a restaurant for about 10 years, bussing tables, waiting tables, working in the kitchen, host, bartender, manager, you name it. But, a lot of people going to school with a purpose and a desire, and if you're sitting here and you're stuck, just out of school and just been thrown into the workforce, it seems rather unfortunate because there's no business, there are no jobs out there. But Jess brought up a good thing too, though, is that, A lot of places, they're looking for experience. They're looking for some kind of resume. And you know what? It may be it may be working in a restaurant for several years or a few years that people can see that you actually have the wherewithal to put in the hard work and the hard labor to prove that, hey, you can be considered for a higher job and a higher position. Remember, Jess, you talk about your, with the degree that you have, and honestly, I have no formal education. I mean, I've taken some classes here and there in college, but life has kept me so busy. It's kept me so busy that I just haven't had a chance to go out and finish and get a degree. I was blessed with a great opportunity working in Manhattan, one of the best accounting firms, one of the top 10 accounting firms in Manhattan at the time, and uh, they gave me a great position to be there and learn my craft and excel. And here I am, many years later, and still enjoying what I can do with computers. So Jess does bring up a good point. What kind of experience do you have? I mean, are you willing to go work in the ground level? I like in a lot of the movies, it talks about individuals getting a job and working for a firm, but the people don't want to go out and do the responsible thing like, hey, get a job. I don't know if you remember in I think it was Transformer 3, Sam Wiki. He gets a job working as delivering mail. That's the common theme in the door. You work in the mail room and you work your way up into a position that you really want to enjoy. But a lot of people, I think they think that, okay, as soon as I get out of college, I should have that office at the corner of the building ready and I mean waiting and ready for me. And it's like, no, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the time to actually earn that position that you have. I remember even so. Yeah, this may not shock you, but in 90, Jess, on 98, I accepted the call to preach. So I love preaching. I have an opportunity to do that. Well, when I first started off, let's just say I was a little bit rough. No, that's an understatement. It was pretty bad. I sucked.
Well,
I was bad.
it's always the being scared is at the beginning. That always attributes to that. I can attest to that kind of thing.
Well, I wouldn't say it was so much being scared as more than it was being overconfident. I was
Oh,
cocky.
I see. Okay.
I was cocky. I thought I had it all. I think it was just me and the Spirit of God. And I'm thinking, I was like, UPS is delivering my pulpit in the mail next week. And then I'm sitting in this Bible college. I mean, I'm in this Bible class, and the professor, we were doing a survey of the New Testament. And he said, we were just reading through the journeys of the Apostle Paul. Now, this guy is pretty famous, because he's written at least 13 books in the 27 books in the New Testament. And the teacher, the professor, he was like, "Listen, I got a message for you, so-called pastors, preachers, evangelists, all you people out there who think that you're really ready to do this." And he's like, "Check this out." He says, "Paul served in ministry for 15 years before he led his first church." Man, if you seen pictures of the Hindenburg going down, like the explosion of the Zeppelin,
Yeah. Oh my
that
god.
was me.
Oh no.
I was, they're talking about Deflate Gate from the Colts bashing this Sunday. No,
Oh yeah, that whole thing. Jeez.
my ego was so deflated when I heard that because it humbled me to show me that there was so much of the Bible I had still yet to even understand, let alone think that I had the right to be a preacher and get up there and actually share anything. I think it was a good 5 years before I did my first sermon after that humbling experience. And I think so many people, they need to understand that you need to get out there. And are you going to work a job that you don't want to? Possibly. But you have to get out there in this economy when the jobs are not making themselves available right now, or the doors are closing in many places. You've got to get out there and still provide for your family. But sadly, in that number that Miller always talks about, there's 93 million people who are no longer in the workforce. I mean, how many of those people can actually go out and get a job? How many of them can actually just do something for the meantime instead of trying to collect unemployment or just hope that the system is going to provide a means for them to just survive, or they just leech off of someone else and not actually contribute? And they could probably run into someone who will open up that door for them to work the
Well,
job that
yeah,
they want.
that's the thing, and you never know what avenue will lead to something else. That's one thing I've noticed. Like some of my own personal relationships were done because I decided, hey, I'm just gonna go volunteer at this thing, or I'm gonna go ahead and do this job even though it's not paying what I want or what I'm used to making or whatever, but it gets my foot in the door in this place. And I've been able to cultivate relationships that way. And then I get calls, like that kind of stuff. That's happened to me personally. So,
But exactly, and if you don't, you want to that's perfect, Jess, because even with me, I was doing computer work here and there, and I was working in the restaurant, I told you, and then I just picked up a side job working at Staples. And here I am working in Staples, working in the business machine section, selling computers, selling, 3.5 inch diskettes.
wow,
Oh,
that is a long time ago. The
yeah.
small floppy disk and at least you didn't have the large floppy disk.
Exactly. Well, that my first computer actually had the large floppy disks. Uh, but you know what? Here's the funny part about it. One of the other guys who were working there at Staples with me, his dad happened to be one of the senior partners. And
Oh
he just came up
wow.
to me one day and he says, he's like, "You like computers?" I was like, "Yeah, I've loved computers since I was like 12 years old." And he said, "My dad's looking for a computer guy. My dad's accounting firm's looking for a computer guy. I mean, you think you want to do it?" I said, "Sure." I threw my resume to get together, and I went out and I interviewed for it, and I started working I think less than a month later. I got this job. So here,
Wow. That's
yeah,
great.
I mean, this was a pretty cool, 3 flights of stairs. It was, oh my goodness, the three-piece suit, wingtip shoes. I'll tell you, you know what? I miss my wingtip shoes. Oh, they were so comfortable. They were the
Nice.
best shoes ever. Oh, I miss them. I, I have to take a moment of this is actually
Of
emotional for me
morning.
because I miss them. They were so they were so good to me. It was like Lassie. I miss those shoes. But no, on a serious note, the state of the onion's about to come on, and I'm really hoping that the president's going to be honest because I don't know if Jess, if you've heard about it, but there's been a lot of economic collapse going on around the world.
Oh yeah.
Uh, the Swiss franc, they're basically not wanting to back the euro. Now I'm hearing about Iceland doing the same, and we're about to start seeing some massive financial problems and issues that are going on that people are not paying attention to. A lot of people are still paying attention to the stock market because, yeah, I think it's still over 18,000. Everybody's happy. But it just, for me, I've always felt like that number's been hyperinflated. I've always felt like that number is not a correct representation of what it should be. Kind of like, they keep saying that unemployment is 5.9%, but that's just impossible with
Oh
93
yeah.
million
That
Americans not working.
Well, that's yeah, that especially with the unemployment number. When you don't count the people that just gave up, then that's not a real number to begin with. And they fully admit that there's people that just dropped off and they dropped them off of the thing. Of course, that percentage is gonna look good. And I've never really followed the stock market. I look at my street and I'm like, how many businesses that were there 2 weeks
Mm,
ago and aren't there now, and that kind of
wow.
thing. Yeah.
And I mean, and so think about it, Jess. You took the time out to just stop and look around and say, wow, this is not good. And if
Mm-hmm.
all those businesses are closing, that means that the number Miller was talking about just started going up because it's not only happening in your neighborhood, it's happening everywhere. And
Exactly.
and so if the president's not going to be honest about this and start talking about this, what's going to happen is I think there are a lot of people who are going to start pulling their money out because if anyone really wants to